Who runs the world? Hello and welcome in. Happy Thursday. I am Allie Pruitt here with Megan Waldron, who runs the world. As y'all know, the answer is always girls. Happy Thursday. You're listening to Radio DePaul Sports, Student Voice here, DePaul Blue Demons. Megan, girl, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited that we got, the equipment down today.
We got it down, you guys. Yeah. We've had so many technical difficulties recently. We thought we broke the whole station. One other week we were like, oh my God, we broke it.
Say some prayers.
It's over. We broke the show. But we didn't. We're here. Our mics are working. The computer's not yet. We're not sure what we did. We didn't do anything, right, Megan? It wasn't us.
No, it wasn't us.
It wasn't us. We didn't do it.
Yeah.
But somebody did it.
Yeah.
And so anyways, but we're all good. We can hear each other.
We can.
Life is good. It's Thursday. I love talking to y'all on Thursdays because it's the best time to talk to y'all. And the first topic of the day, NBA Draft Lottery, baby.
I know.
So NBA Draft Lottery just wrapped up. It was here in Chicago this year at the Palmer House. Really cool. But we got a lot to dissect about this draft, y'all, because one, we'll get into the actual draft later, but this draft lottery, all right.
How does it work? Because I heard it's like a flip of a coin.
So it's ping pong balls.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so for those who are unfamiliar with the NBA draft lottery, here's how it works. The 14 teams with the worst record in the NBA.
So the Bulls.
are entered into the draft, okay? So here's where it gets sticky. Right. And here's where I am interested to see what happens as time goes on, because as we saw this year, there was that tankometer, the tank talk, because some of these teams started to realize, we're not going to win. So all of a sudden you started to see, Zach LaVine sitting out. You started to see Chris Dunn sitting out. You started to see these guys sitting out, bringing these other guys in to play. And it's like, are they hurt? I don't think so. You know what I mean?
I'm not a big
fan. So people were starting to tank, right? Because they knew that they could get, better odds at this. So the Phoenix Suns had the best odds of getting the number one pick, and they got it. They had a 25% chance.
Right.
And here's kind of how it works. So if the worse you are, the more, so they pull out 4 ping pong balls, okay, and it's a 4-digit code.
Right.
The more losses you have, the worse you are, the more codes you are given.
Okay. So the higher percentage of you,
so you get 2,500 codes.
Right.
You get 1,000 codes, right?
That's a lot.
So, they also do not pull the ping pong balls out in front of the crowd.
Oh.
They do it behind closed doors. Now, it was 10 years ago when the Bulls had a 0.5 chance of getting the number one pick, and they got Derrick Rose with the number one pick. Now, you cannot tell me that was not rigged.
Yeah. Keeping Derrick Rose.
The Chicago kid. Yeah. The Bulls weren't doing so hot. They hadn't had a good record, and magically they get the number one pick.
So you think it's rigged? You think that they should be doing that?
I think it was rigged. Now, is it still rigged? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But there's no way it wasn't rigged.
Right. I heard
and
that.
And why don't they pick the balls in front of the people?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
What are you hiding from me? Is that a magic show? You need to do all things in the open.
Here's my thing. How was Cleveland in at 8? How are they going to get they're getting the 8th pick, I believe.
Yeah.
I thought, their record's not bad, right?
Well, there's 14 teams that get in there.
So, who didn't get in there?
All the teams that aren't on that list.
That's crazy, though. To me, Cleveland, if you're in the playoffs right now, you shouldn't be on this list.
You can also, there's a lot more to it. But, so Phoenix, the Sacramento Kings, Atlanta, Memphis, Dallas, Orlando, Chicago, Cleveland, New York, and Philly are all up there. Like I said, you get that code. They pull the code out, you get that. So the question of the matter is now, so Bulls are supposed to pick 6, the way the odds are in their favor.
Okay.
They didn't. They moved down a spot to get the 7th overall pick. And there's 2 guys right now at the top, you got Luka, who's the kid from overseas, and you have DeAndre Ayton from Arizona. Those are the two guys who they're saying are up in the mix to be the number one pick this year in the draft, which happens in June?
Yep.
June, I believe. So. End of June. June 20, can't remember off the top of my head. 20-something. And so that's kind of the pick. Now, the thing about it is, I was just talking about this the other day, is because the smart thing for Phoenix to do would be to take DeAndre Ayton, right?
Why is that?
He's the best player in the draft right now.
Yeah.
The thing is their head coach used to coach this Luka kid overseas, so they're thinking that he might take him, which means then the Kings would get DeAndre Ayton. So it's kind of all up in the mix. The thing is, though, beyond those two, there really isn't like, oh, whoa, my God, one player who's so much better than the other now. Like, during the Derrick Rose draft, it was like the draft of two people, right? And so they were all like, well, if it ain't Derrick Rose,
it was Michael Beasley.
Yes.
It was actually between those two, and Michael Beasley really didn't do much.
Well, it's like, it was them, and like, that was it. And so if you were picked 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, you kind of were like, well, we're all kind of in the same boat, right? We didn't get Derrick Rose, we didn't get Michael Beasley, so now we're in the same spot. Whereas this year, you kind of have a lot of guys off the level playing field. You have Jaren Jackson, you have Michael Porter Jr., you have Trae Young. So you have these guys who, they're different positions. They excel at different positions, but there's no guy who I'm like, oh my God, if we don't get him, it's game over.
Who's the Duke player again? Bagley?
Marvin Bagley.
Yeah. He's in there.
So they got a good mix of people.
I think Chicago will do well.
So the question is, should the Bulls have lost more games? Because they kind of made a run there at the end of the season. Should they have lost more games? And what are your thoughts on tanking? Now, as a Bulls fan, are you mad? Are you mad that we get the 7th pick? Or it doesn't matter this year's draft? So what are your thoughts on this idea of tanking, and what should the Bulls have done?
It's truly crazy to me, Allie, just because, like, as you know as well, like, just playing sports as you're growing up, we never were put in a situation where we tried to lose a game. Like, I can never recall ever, thinking about tanking. Do you know what I'm saying? And so
it's just so different because of how they set this draft up, the draft lottery. But the worse you are. So if you go into a season, you have rookies.
Right.
You know, I mean, the Bulls knew from day one this season they were not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, they made some big trades. They got rid of big-time guys. You know what I mean? Taj Gibson, Joakim Noah. I mean, the team as we knew it left.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you got rid of those guys. And they rebuilt. And they rebuilt around Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, and Lauri Markkanen. Now, when it happened where everyone was like, oh, my God, why are you getting all these guys? For who? For Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, and Lauri Markkanen? What are you doing?
Right.
Now you look at it, and it's like, Lauri Markkanen is a future all-star.
He's good. Yeah.
He is phenomenal.
I agree.
Chris Dunn is the point guard for the Bulls who they will build around, right? Now, I brought this up before, the question of Zach LaVine, how much will his price go up?
Right.
Is that worth it for the Bulls? You know, you kind of have to weigh that out. But still, you have two solid players. So, but they knew going in they were not going to make the playoffs. So then you run into this question, right? Do you experiment more, right? Like, do you bring guys up from the G League maybe, see how they play together? Because, they're saying, that Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn don't work the best together sometimes. So, they experienced it. They brought in Campaign towards the end of the season. I mean, they just started to do some different things. Now, they played it off as we're experimenting, we're trying to get these guys playing time.
Lineup, see if it works.
Does this work? Well? Does this work? Right. Now, is that true?
Yeah.
Or did they do that on purpose? There were a lot of games where I'm like, why aren't they playing? And it was like, well, we're trying this lineup, but we're doing this, or we're giving him a rest day, or whatever. And, the NBA is going to change these rules because think about how much profit. I mean, if you had season tickets and you show up And I'm watching Diddly Do and Diddly Dum play, who I've never heard of before.
Right. And when the star player's on the bench.
Right.
Yeah.
And you think, and the Bulls, I mean, the thing with the Bulls is they had Zach LaVine, Krista, and Lauri Markkanen play some games together in December.
Yeah.
And they won.
Right.
And so now the question was...
Oh, you found the lineup. You got to keep playing them.
You know, it was like, well, they're winning. You know, like they won. So why didn't you play them November, October like this together? Because now they're winning. And, you know, the NBA commissioner came out and said, and people were saying, you know, you just can't say the word tank. Yeah. You know, oh gosh, what is his name? Dallas Mavericks owner.
Oh, Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
You know, he said, oh, we got to tank. He told his guys, we got to tank. And... they're not even...
Here's my thing.
They're picking 5th.
Is there a rule against tanking? Like, what is the NBA commission?
So this is new. Like, the thought of this is new.
That's what I was going to say. Back in Michael Jordan's day, there wasn't...
So the idea of this, let's lose to get the better draft lottery picks...
It makes sense in the long run, yeah.
...is a new idea. So this season, when Mark Cuban came out and said,
"Yeah,
oh, we're tank," you know what I mean? Like,
I could see him
tank. He was like, tank, for Christ's sake. We got to lose these games. And it was everyone, like, they didn't know how to handle it, right? Because it was new. And so they kind of just came out saying, like, you cannot tank and you can't use the word tank. Well, we were talking about it at work and things because... well, then just don't call it tanking. Is experimenting, is trying the lineups, is that code for tanking? You know what I mean? But if you frame it a different way, is it not? And so this idea, you know, and now you look, the Bulls moved down a spot in the pick. Now, if they would have lost in December... would they have moved up? I mean, you just don't know. And so it's like, what really do you do about it? And
it's concerning for the NBA's future. As a fan, as, you know, someone that, you know, truly loves basketball, it's hard to see that. Like, you go, like you said, season ticket holders, you see these, like, stars that you go to see. Curry, I remember there was a time where Curry was, like, not playing, and LeBron was, you know, like, they're on the bench. And
giving someone a rest day is so different, you know what I mean, than taking the starting lineup out, you know? So... yeah. I mean, what are your, if you have any, and if you're listening to us right now, what are your solutions to tanking, if you have any? How can the NBA fix this problem? How can you stop tanking from happening? What can they do? Megan, do you have any thoughts? I mean, what can the NBA do to change how this is happening? Because you saw towards the end of the season, it kind of just...
right.
Yeah.
I mean, here's my thing. Like, I'm not a fan of it, but it completely makes sense. Like, as, like, a business, you know, person, like, I can see where Mark Cuban's like, let's tank. Because in the long run, you're going to make more revenue. You're going to do better as a team. You're going to make fans happier in the long run. But... you know, in the small picture, it's not right. It's not right to, like, go out there and not compete.
Right.
And to answer your question, I don't necessarily know, because here's my thing. If the NBA commissioner and, you know, those top guys up in the league making these rules, if they come out with stricter regulations, like you said, you made a good point. How can you decipher if someone's tanking or if it's an experiment, like you said? And so I'm interested to see where it will go. I have no idea. I truly wonder, what do you think that you'll see, you know, taken?
I think the thing I think will happen is it's going to go into something along the lines of, like, so you know how you have the NBA playoffs? Mm-hmm. I think there will be, like, a, you know, consolation tournament.
Like a right? Or a NIT.
So, but for the NBA. So if you're the bottom of the batch, you play in a tournament.
I like
to get the picks, right? So you got to play, right? Yeah. And you got to compete,
right?
And then that's kind of how they figure it out. And you know, it's the, you know, 8 teams or whatever, because it just,
Has there been talk about that?
Yeah, and there's been some talk about it. There's also been talk about, like, after the first half of this, or after, like, the All-Star break, like, who, you know, does the... So you take the teams who have done the worst, because after the All-Star break, you know if you're making the playoffs or not, right?
Yeah.
So you take the teams who are doing the worst, and, you know, then you look at their record from then on, like, who did the best, and, you know, that kind of thing, because you got to make it, like, you have... like. Okay, you're not making the playoffs, but the more you win now, the better pick you'll get, or something, because...
And this just goes back to, like you said, I like that idea, because here, Chicago really did the right thing, but they lost, and that's just life. Like, that's just crazy. Like, here, someone did the right thing, but in retrospect, it didn't help. Like, they're 7 instead of 6, and I think you have to create a system where people who are doing the right thing, the best thing for the league, you know, are being rewarded for that. And I think you have to give them a chance. And like you said, create another bracket for these teams that aren't competing.
We have an opinion here. The only possible solution to not reward teams with the worst record. Take the teams that make the playoffs and give them all the exact and equal opportunity to get the top pick. Now, that has been another solution, is that you just take that away. And also, Stan Van Gundy, he came out saying, take the draft away completely. Like, there is no draft. And he also said, no max contracts. And his reasoning is, he said, I'd get rid of it, just get rid of the draft altogether. We just deal with the salary cap. Make all rookies, free agents come in. And if you want to give a guy $50 million a year, good, but you have to do it under the cap. I think if you did that and you had no individual max on players, we'd start to get some parity in the league. But the league doesn't really want parity. They want super teams. I get that. It's worked well. It's business-wise. He said he's not concerned about the draft lottery reform, as the team won't be tanking under his watch. So, he, you know, with the Pistons, he's like, it ain't happening. We're not tanking.
Here's my thing, though. Like, the draft is such, like, a crucial part to, you know, a player's development. And it's just, like, you know, it's also an entertainment, you know, aspect to the game. I think it adds a lot more than just free agency. What do you think?
I mean, the thing I'm, like, curious about, so if you take away max contracts, right?
Right.
Because, and we kind of touched on this a little in the NBA, or in the NFL draft, because we were like, you know, the guy, Baker Mayfield, he goes number one, he's with the worst team in the NFL. So what if you took away that, and then if you give everyone the same chance, now DeAndre Ayton, now he makes the choice. He's getting the same pay. Do you go to the worst team, or do you go to a team that's making the playoffs right out of the gate?
I think that's really bad. I think that's going to create so many super powerful teams, and then create a lot of teams that cannot even withstand a chance against these powerful ones. So I don't think that's a healthy way to go about it.
What was that? I'm sorry, reading comment. We got the lottery as opposed to the system now where the worst records have the best chance to get the top pick. It encourages teams to tank. You're absolutely right. Okay.
No, I just don't think that. I don't like that, because I think that Baker Mayfield would have never picked Cleveland. So Cleveland still would have been struggling, you know, next year. I think Baker gives them a chance to compete with these other powerful teams. I think it creates like unbalanced.
So you think the worst teams should get the best players? Okay,
yeah.
so then if max contracts aren't a thing, you take that away.
Can you explain max contracts?
You know, like, you're a number one pick, you're going to make a boatload of money versus you're a round 2 pick, round 3 pick. You know, number one picks in the draft, they sign max contracts right away. Other guys who go maybe in the second or third round, they're signing 2-way contracts with the G League. Those guys who are going 1, 2, 3, even 4 sometimes, are signing $50 million contracts right out of the gate, guaranteed. Okay, so that's what a max contract is we have this cap space, so we have this much money, we're going to give you the maximum of what we can give you if you come and play for us.
Right.
Whereas, if you're going to go to Golden State as a rookie, we don't have the max to give you, because we're giving our max to Steph Curry and KD, right? Like, that's who our max is going to. So you don't get that. Whereas if you go to a Kings or if you go to the Suns, you will get the max.
I see.
And so
if you go to a worse team, you're going to make more money. But if you
go
to a bad team,
you might not ever make the playoffs, right? So you kind of got to...
That's fascinating.
So, you know, it's interesting because... So that maybe what if you got those guys, then those teams would still have big cap space. Maybe you sign veterans versus rookies, you know, as a as a front office.
It would make me judge a player a little bit just because, like, are you chasing money or are you chasing championships? You know, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean they're chasing money. They could just want to be helping a team from zero,
right.
you know.
Or they could want to be the star right out of the gate. It's like a DeAndre Ayton, if he goes to the Suns right away, he will be that. Look at Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
He was the star, you know, so you got guys who are stars, and they're carrying the team, and then they build around them as they go. Right. Or you go and get built around, and maybe you win faster. So it just really gives a different aspect to it.
It allows more freedom for the players, actually, to pursue what they want early on in their career.
I mean, I think the idea of getting rid of max contracts and of getting rid of the draft is way farther down the line versus an end-of-the-year tournament to play for the top picks.
I agree.
Because, and I get, like, oh, you know, Phoenix was so... But how much worse were they than the Kings? You know what I mean? Like, they're close.
Right.
So it's like, if you just have them play... And the thing is very rarely do you get a guy, like, you know, we said in that 10 years ago in that Derrick Rose draft, there was Derrick Rose, right? And that was it, and Beasley, and... That was it. Whereas this year we kind of mentioned there's about, I would say, 6-7 guys
for sure.
who are up there. And so does it really matter? You know, we're kind of talking about that. Should the Bulls be that angry about it? But I think if you have that end of the year tournament, you allow for teams to compete. And that's what fans want to see. That's what's going to bring the NBA money. And let's be serious. If you make another tournament, a spin-off of the playoffs, a consolation, like an NIT, but for the NBA, NBA is racking in more dough. So, realistically, that, to me, makes more sense than we're just going to cut max contracts and get rid of the whole draft. I mean, that just seems farther down the line to me. Is it impossible? I don't think so. But I think the next steps are definitely this tournament.
I agree, and like I think the NBA is all about money.
Oh, 100%
I think
all about
for
money.
sure that they would love to have more games. They're always looking for those opportunities, and it'll be fascinating to see, you know, what happens. I agree with your point about the max contracts and all that. I think that would happen further down the road. I don't think people are you know, talking about that as much, but it's, you know, it's a unique idea. It really is. At first when you said it, I'm like, oh, no way, getting rid of the draft. But actually, I'm not opposed to it because it allows players more freedom. Because in a way, the draft is crazy.
It is.
Like, you kind of just, whereas college, you pick where you go to college.
Right.
So why in the NBA you don't get that choice? I don't know.
It's crazy. Well, all right, we're going to take a quick break. If y'all have any thoughts on tanking on the draft lottery, we would love to hear them. So please send them my way. You can DM me. You can email me, whatever is the best for you. But let us know your thoughts on that. We'll throw them in the show if we have time, if you send them over right away. If not, we'll throw them in next week. When we come back, we have some more NBA talk. We got Becky Hammond to talk about, as we talked about last week. And, of course, we got some LeBron James talk. Man, he's down 2-0 in the series, baby. What is going to happen? So stay tuned. We will be right back. You're listening to Radio DePaul Sports. I'm Allie Pruitt. That is Megan Waldron. This is Who Runs the World. As y'all know, the answer is always girls. So stay tuned. We will be right back.